We're living a holistic life, yes, we are living a holistic life in the 21st century, but we're also hearing it from the experts on how to, and why not to. Over to you. Would you like to sit or?
No, I like to stand. Perfect. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. 13 years ago, when I just turned 50, I started asking, how would I like to spend the rest of my life? And that was a turning moment. You know, when, for me, turning 50 was so much more difficult than when I just turned 60 3 years ago. So that was the time when I started asking, what else is possible? What would I like to create as my life and living for the rest of my life? Because I look around my environment, look at the people who's working with me. In that moment in time, I was a senior executive of Fortune 500. My life was extremely busy, traveling the world, leading a corporate lifestyle. And it was pretty stressful, and I knew that there are so much more to life than, you know, making money, success, and create, you know, the world that could be even better than that. So I began to look at what else I could truly create and generate in the world. And I realized that my priority is so much more than just become a successful executive or successful businesswoman. And that's when holistic lifestyle started for me. I started a project called Conscious Leader for Futures that are Sustainable. I began the research, talking to women and men all around the world, looking at what are they choosing to create as their life and living. And from that space, I found that most people never even consider what it is that they really truly like to create as their life. They sort of allow themselves to create life on autopilot mode. And that's how the project started. I then started creating a blog called Generative Woman, because I knew that there's so many women had no idea about what create a holistic life for themselves is. They were thinking about there's nothing they can do about it. This is the way things are, and this is as good as it's going to get. So I knew that there are many other possibilities available in the world if we all choose to be and to do and to see different possibilities. And it's the choice we have to make. So I began the project talking to people around the world, inviting them and stimulating them to become a conscious leader in their own life. Because most people don't even consider who is the leader in their life. So first question, I would invite you all to ask yourself, who is the leader in your own life? Are you a leader in your life? If you're not, who is? And have you actually choose to master your life and yourself? If not, it's never too late. Whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, or 70, it's never too late to become a conscious leader in your own life. And there are so many choices and so many possibilities available for you out there, only if you choose. But you have to be willing to make the choice to become a leader in your own life first. Unless you make that choice consciously, you would allow this reality to have the power over you. And if you keep leading your life according to this autopilot mode, You're going to be a victim of circumstances. You're going to become a victim of this reality. So the first question that I would invite you to ask yourself, what else is possible? What else can I be and do different to create different possibility for me beyond what I have ever considered? And what would it take for me to embody and be a conscious leader in my own life? And, it is about living in the present moment. What does that mean? It means that being conscious and aware about your choice, about the way you choose to lead your life, because the world is full of infinite choice and infinite possibilities, but we are not willing to receive it at the moment. And if you are willing to become aware, to live in the present moment, you will open the doors to infinite choice and infinite possibilities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chutisa. That was beautiful. Because thank you for highlighting the power of choice. Because I think that's much more reflective of who we are rather than our abilities. So, yeah, if we choose wisely, I think this planet can be so much more wholesome. Thank you. Rosemary, could I invite you to please enlighten us with your beautiful words?
Lovely. Thank you.
If you don't need that, I can do this one working.
Thank you. What a privilege to look at all your wonderful faces, to be here and to be inspired. The idea of living a holistic life to me means living your own life the way you want to, being who you really are, letting all your energy come from your own center of your being. And how do you do that? I spent a lot of years trying to do it very well, being very serious, not having much fun, raising 5 children, being divorced, opening a business, doing all kinds of things just to make it work. And one day I realized I had been reading a story to my children year after year after year, and they loved it, and they lived it, but their mother didn't. So I got the book back out, and it's called Harold and the Purpled Crayon. Anyone know it? Yes. If you don't know it, it's worth a read. Harold has a purple crayon, and when he wants to go somewhere, he draws it. If he wants to go in the woods, he draws the trees, and the next thing you know, he's there. If he wants to go to bed, he draws his bed, and then he's asleep in his bed. If he wants to look out the window at the moon, he draws it. The other night, we were in Lisbon. French doors opened out. We could see the convent up on the top of the hill, and there was the full moon. And I felt like Harold. I had wanted to come to Portugal, and now I'm in Portugal. There's more. I've started a blog which I really would love to continue with your stories. It's called The Currency of the Heart, because I think that's where we need to live now. We have alternative banking systems. We need more than alternative banking systems. We need to live from our hearts. We need to share ourselves and what we have. We need to learn to be with each other in a totally new way, so that we are really together on this planet, connected in a way that we've never been connected before, not competing with one another, just simply living our lives from the heart. If you have a story about yourself and something you're doing that's connecting your heart with others, I'd love to hear about it. We'll put it on the blog. I was in Kenya a number of years ago and met this wonderful woman whose sister died from AIDS. The sister had a little boy. So this new friend of mine said, I'm going to take care of him. And then she looked around and noticed there were a lot of other little children, also orphans, also who needed to be taken care of. She knew she couldn't do it all, but she said, I'll make them lunch. She called her friends and asked if they'd help her, and they said, yes, when do we start? And she said, tomorrow. And the friends came and they made lunch, and the children came and they ate lunch. And now, 5 or 7 years later, there are 500 children that eat lunch with her every day. It wasn't a question of, in America, this is how we do it. We gather our friends and we say, I see something I'd like to do. Will you help me? And the other people say, yes, of course. How will we do it? Well, we don't know, but let's meet in a month. You think about it. Bring a plan back. We'll talk about it again. They may do this for 6 or 7 months, strategically planning how to fix lunch for 500 orphans. That's not the way to do it anymore. We need to see something, feel something, do something about it. And you can. You've all come here. That's the first step to making the next step happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. Beautiful, inspired words. I was right. Thank you. Small steps. All we need is a... Do you need water? There is water behind you, in case. But like we said, like we're all drops in the ocean, and every little drop counts.
Thank you so much.
There you are. If I could invite Dr. Lara Burazer, coming from Slovenia.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Hi. Okay, so hello everyone. So I'm Lara Burazer from Slovenia. I'm with the University of Ljubljana, where I teach the English language, right? So I try to make sense of it, try to see the difference, thank you, that I can make in the world by simply just maybe teaching language, right, at this level. Okay, so life today, we could say that in many respects is kind of tough, right? What I try to do is stay as active as possible, but through that, I have come to take on a lot of roles, different roles in life, like social roles. So professionally, I am a teacher, an educator, a researcher, a teacher trainer, a translator, an author, many, and probably some other roles as well. Privately, a wife, a mother, a sister, an aunt, a friend, a confidant, and the list goes on, right? So juggling these roles isn't always easy, right? But it has many challenges, but there are also blessings, right? So the way I see it as blessing is that I get to focus my energy on people. So whenever we have to juggle these roles, so we're lucky enough to actually be involved with many people. And being in people's lives, you also have the opportunity to make a difference. So I've always been interested in people and interpersonal communication. So just to tell you a few things about myself. So when I first started out with my academic research, I mostly focused on theoretical linguistics, but I soon realized that this is not exactly where my heart is, where I feel my calling is. So I tried to find something else within linguistics where I could work with people more rather than the rules of language and the proper use of language and how people are supposed to use language rather than what they can actually do with it. So I got into translation studies next, which is more connected with people because you always need to take into consideration so people's background knowledge, people's political context, their socio-political context, culture, attitudes, expectations. So you basically need to study people almost more than language, right? And like I've mentioned before, so I come from Slovenia, and there is this one particular adjective that we like to associate with Slovenia, which is small, right? This is a small country, and by small we mean that there's only about 2 million population, about 2 million speakers of Slovene around the world. I mean, so this is one adjective is small. Another one that's also been in use that I've noticed is a boutique country. You know, such a cute word, right? I come from this boutique country in Central Europe. So historically, this might have been seen as a disadvantage, right? Because we didn't really stand a chance against any powerful political players, you know, in military political conflicts, who never really stood a chance. And for that reason, we had to develop many skills, such as adaptability, flexibility, modesty, humbleness, right? And these are all skills which come in handy in today's world, right, in contemporary society. But we somehow still managed to preserve our culture and our language. Actually, preservation of culture was largely based on the preservation of our language. That's why we see our language, the Slovenian language, as the core of our national identity. So belonging to a small culture is not always a disadvantage. If nothing else, we could say that because there aren't that many speakers around the world who speak the language, we sort of get to own it. We have this sense of ownership, you know. I own my culture, I know my language. And on that account, we often feel threatened by anyone trying to change it in any way, right? People trying to learn it also try to use it the way they feel should be used, or they think, you know, when they use it, they think they're using it correctly. But we feel if they change it, we might lose our national identity, which is just the opposite of the English language, which historically has been up for grabs, basically for anyone to use and to mold and modify as they see fit. And as a consequence, not only has English stood the test of time, but it's become the predominant lingua franca, or as of lately, it's also been referred to as a global language. So it didn't get lost somewhere, right? It was just the opposite. So anyway, so speakers of English, native and also non-native speakers of English, therefore feel like they own it. And as such, English plays the role of connecting people at global level. Okay, so, and this is really important because speaking a world language enables you to exchange ideas and tap into the world knowledge. So, anyway, I'll have to skip a few paragraphs on my latest technology that I brought with me. Anyway, so my vision for the future is that in order to be more sustainable and holistic as a society, language might actually play the important role of empowering people to speak their mind and to exchange ideas. And the concept of empowerment should really make a difference and not just be a fancy word. So thank you very much for your attention. And thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Jerca, may I invite you to please share with us your journey? Thank you.
Seems that I'm the last, but hopefully not the least. And it is my pleasure to be among all these empowered ladies from all over the world today, indeed. I will expose to you 4 elements that I found relevant for living a holistic life in the 21st century, with, of course, a special focus on the region which we are coming from, and that is my home country, Slovenia. And these are balance, change, passion, and bridges. What I'm talking about. Today we are in a historical moment between past and future. But what a recent present means: globalization, consumerism, human alienation, fast living, changing of traditional roles, hectic everyday, collapse of ethical and moral standards, reorganized system of values. Basic and firm balance between all aspects of life is needed more than any time in history. But how can we achieve that? We need to improve the balance between intellectual, emotional, spiritual, and physical potential. And we need an ingredient that had always led to social progress, empowerment of individuals, groups, and organizations, and that is called change. Have you heard about the CAR model, which means awareness of the need for change, desire to support and participate in the change, knowledge of how to change, ability to implement the change, and reinforcement to sustain in the change. For 20 years, I have been an expert in gender issues and media phenomena, but today I would like to focus on the first, with a concrete example of where we are going, and where we would like to be in 30 years from today. Do not forget that gender equality is one of the most important issues for living a holistic life in 21st century. I would like to present you the case of women employment in top business, political, public and private sector positions, according to recent research we conducted in Slovenia. Why are we talking about need for the gender balance in business management? Because it's good for business. All figures show that 40% income can be higher if women are on top positions, that there are 26% of more profitable share prices movements and 6% of higher net profit, that companies with women managers are more innovative, and that women bring more flexibility. And why are women in Slovenia, as well in other developed countries, unequally represented in decision-making bodies? Slovenia is in 4th place in Global Index of Security and Peace for Women, in 5th place in Global Index of Women on top positions in public sector, and in 7th place in progressing with gender equality in management. But in reality, there are 58% with university degree education, but only 21% among executive directors, and only 5% as presidents of management boards. World Economic Forum says that with the present intensity of these changes, we need 100 years to bridge the gap between the gender in management. Thus, European Union is prepared guidelines for the systematic improvement of presence of women in executive bodies. So where is the problem of the employment imbalance? Of course, in stereotypes about gender in human resources selection of personnel and career advancement, in lack of transparency in the process of selection for management and supervisory boards, and in prevailing so-called male business culture. What are we doing in Slovenia? Section of female managers is preparing a proposal for legislative changes to be presented and accepted by governmental and legislative bodies, and will be tracking carefully and supervising its implementation. And not to forget the most important ingredient of personal and professional progress for a living holistic life in 21st century is the process of changing in the passion, of doing things and believing in a better world. We can stay in our comfort zone as observers, complaining about how everything is possible and nothing is impossible to change. Or we can take an active role and start working the changes today. In our organization, which is Femmes Sans Frontières, Women Without Borders, we are aware of that, and thus we are the change. And besides that, we continue building bridges and not walls. And since I'm coming from one of the smallest countries in the world, we are small in the nation, but big in the spirit. I would like to welcome you, of course, in the middle Central Europe, to our green country, which is actually National Park of Europe, and maybe we can continue all our discussions